evening, Gabby.
Good evening, TC, and welcome all to our weekly podcast, Terry Curran's A Curran View, with the Oil of Hillsborough, Mr. Terry Curran. And if you're listening to the free first half on either Acast or Spotify, you can follow the links on our socials and access the full podcast via either Apple or become a Patreon. All the w's.patreon.com/SRBmedia. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Curran View, on Facebook, The Curran View, or join the group, which is over 3,000 members strong. Thank you so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Steady away, mate.
Yeah, steady away. And I've just been watching Man United. They get knocked out of the... not knocked out. They've got to play a
playoff
another
game
to keep in that
in February.
In that Europa. And but they've got to play a team what's been knocked out of a
Champions League. Mm-hmm.
And it drops down into the Europa League. But as a player, you know, as a player, if you play for any team, say if I play for Sheffield Wednesday and I get knocked out of Cup and I get transferred to Everton, and they're still in the Cup, I can't play in it.
No, you're Cup told.
Champions League, you know, it just shows you how corrupt these authorities are.
But it's crazy. I mean, they make the rules as they go along, and it is quite ridiculous how you can get knocked out of one cup competition and then have the safety net of falling into the Europa League, playing in a playoff game, knocking out teams that are already qualified for the said competition, and you take their place at the table. I think it's so wrong.
What's that saying? Rules for me, but not for me.
Absolutely. It's crazy. It's a ridiculous scenario. And again, playing too many games, and they're creating more playoff games for the competition.
I'm not being funny. When I say corrupt, I don't mean it in a nasty way.
No, you don't.
Because what I'm saying is they can make any rule they want to.
Of course they can.
Right? I mean, you just said they're complaining about players playing too many games. Yet they keep adding games.
Of course they do.
Why? What are they trying to make us think that we're confused, or there's something wrong with us?
They're just trying to create more income, and that's what they do. They create more competitions.
Gabby, you'll get the income with a TV, but you know when these teams have already qualified and they play weekend team, do you think they're going to make any more money out of it from club side of it? If they do, it's very, very little.
Well, I mean, they now have that luxury of, if they drop out of the Champions League, they can compete in the Europa League. It's a team that finishes third. I think the team that finishes fourth are just out of Europe anyhow. But the team that finishes third drop down into the Europa League.
But then if they win the why does clubs complain? Why does the FAs complain about players playing too many games?
But they don't, do they? They
complain.
Never about Europe.
As though
never about Europe. I mean, you had all the managers, you have all the players. They're all playing too much football. We've done this on the podcast for years now. They don't play as much domestic football as what they used to play. The problem is Europe and international games. That's the creation. That's why they play too many games. But you never, ever, ever, ever hear them having a go at European competition, playing too many games. It's always domestic.
Because they are never wrong. You know, we're the ones what's wrong.
Exactly.
I told everybody 46 years ago, maybe 47 years ago, about our coaching. I want our managers to be successful. People might criticize me or think I'm a big mouth for keep repeating myself about it. And for the first time, I watched I don't know how many's on our side, but for the first time, I saw Glenn Hoddle, Rio Ferdinand, and Joe Cole. Now I take Joe Cole. Right, they all turned around and said, because there was on about Graham Potter at Chelsea now, and how well he's done. And they asked Potter about English coaching. He said, well, overseas, they they get laughed at, English coach, because it's about wearing your heart on your sleeve and long ball and all that.
Yeah.
And they were not complaining, but they were turning around and saying, well, probably are right, because we've had that perception. And Glenn Hoddle turned around and said, well, I hope people don't think that about me. Joe Cole, for me, could have been a really superstar player. You see, my saying in life. What I've learned is it's a sin to stay silent and say nothing.
Absolutely.
Joe Cole, for me, would have been and could have been an elite footballer, right? Jose Mourinho, if you'd have played him as a number 10, or let him play like Messi, allow him to play the positions like Messi plays. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Messi, but he would have been an elite player.
Yeah.
Messi is a god. You can see that. He's sort of off a different planet. But Joe Cole would have been one of those who opened things up for our national team and the team where he played in. He said when he went and played in France, if he gave the ball away once, they used to laugh typical English. I was telling people about this for years. I played in Sweden, right? They used to say to me, like a lot of players when I was playing used to say to me, show me how you do that.
Yeah.
I didn't have to play third division football. I'd had enough of all the crap. Right? And if I'd have known, and I wanted to play for Sheffield Wednesday, and I don't regret playing for Sheffield Wednesday, but if I'd have known Jack were going to play that way, I would have gone.
I mean, Chrissy Waddle.
But I was banging my head against a brick wall, not for me.
Yeah.
For our game.
Absolutely. Chrissy Waddle always said that about when he went to play in Marseille, and you listen to all of the players that went and played abroad, so many fantastic experiences, because the way that we play our game is completely different to the way the foreigners have always played the game. The Continentals have always played the game.
I've been telling everybody, Gabby.
Yeah, but in the early 1900s, Jimmy Hogan was the English coach that went over.
This,
Absolutely, yeah, and couldn't really get a job in this country. He had to keep going over to Austria, to Holland, to Germany.
How can anybody justify this?
Yeah.
How can anybody justify this? Charles Hughes.
Absolutely.
He gets the highest job in football.
It's incredible.
Right? They let Bobby Moore, who won a World Cup and were captain of a World Cup, go down to teams like Oxford City and Southend, instead of applying his trade at the highest level in our game.
Yep.
Right? And Bobby Chow was a bit different. Yeah, but he's also had, a bit more respect for some unknown reason. I don't know why. Right? But Man United made him an ambassador. But I think that's only because of Fergie and them.
Yeah.
What appreciated that type of thing. Right? But we put somebody in charge of our national game, right? What hadn't got a clue.
No, not a Scooby-Doo. Not a Scooby-Doo.
What he was tell us players, if you get the ball into the box, you've more chance of scoring a goal. Well, obviously.
No shit, Charlotte. I know.
Obviously, you've got a chance of scoring a goal. You've got a chance of scoring a goal once you kick off at 3 o'clock or at 7:45 at night.
Exactly.
Right? But what you've got to do is try and create chances to score goals. Not just give the ball away and hope and play percentage football. Right? We've got on courses, or we've set a philosophy up to follow. Don't be a follower, be a leader.
Absolutely.
Coach outside the box, play outside the box, but have discipline when you haven't got the ball. You've got to help your team out.
Yeah.
Simple. But made difficult by these clever coaches what know everything. They've got all the badges, and how many fail? I told you last week, there's more fail what's got the full badges like they've got than the ones that played at the highest level.
Absolutely.
Because the ones that play at the highest level in our leagues practically go down to the bottom to start. On continent, the great players start at the highest level.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, I know. They put the cart before the horse in this country. It's run by idiots, and all they want is robots. Some magic moments, TC, this week. What have you sourced for us? And I bet that we've got a couple that are snap.
I bet we haven't.
I bet we have. Go on. What are you
offering? I bet we haven't.
I bet we got one.
I bet we haven't.
Gone in. Wait, what's yours?
Well, I watched a lot of the games this weekend.
Yeah.
When I say a lot of the games, I've watched a few games and then I watched some highlights of other games.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to try and pronounce his name right because I thought this was best goal at game. Again, plenty goals, plenty excitement, and plenty magic moments, as you know. Not only for players but goalkeepers.
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. You always say that.
You know,
you do.
I think I could pronounce it. I'm going to try and pronounce his name if I can. Felongi Bidas.
No, I've not got that.
He scored for Cardiff.
Oh, the boy, the boy that's on loan from Villa. Brilliant.
Did you see the goal?
Yes, I did. Fantastic. I've shared it. Yeah. Brilliant. Quality, wasn't it?
Calm, composed, clipped it right in the top corner. And I'm watching Leeds United under 23 because Tom and Jock are both Leeds fans.
Yeah.
Both Sheffield Wednesday fans when they were kids, but when we once I started going to school with the mates, because I lived up in Leeds, they became Leeds fans. And I'm watching this thing, and I said to Tommy, why this lad, because they know more about Leeds than me, I said, why this lad in and around the team? Right? This like, when did they play Liverpool?
So, Saturday night.
So it must have been Thursday, this when I was watching. He scored the winner, and what I saw of him, again, he ran at people. He's a confident little player. Let them express themselves, but make sure they understand how important it is when we haven't got the ball.
Yeah.
And the kid, I forget his name now, because it's the first time I've seen him play. But I'm watching this program, this thing, Leeds United. If they win, they give you his name. Great little player. Great little player. You know, he scored the winner for Leeds. You know, and Leeds have been having it bad. But I thought they played quite well other night against Liverpool. I know they were bad. One of them was a bad goal, you know. But football's football. And the hardest thing is the mistakes that players make. And you see it week in and week out, don't you?
Yeah, you do. Yeah, and Liverpool, I mean, it was for a lot of the games. So I didn't watch all of it, but I did watch a lot of it. And the bits that I saw, it was like, you know, shots in, really. Liverpool were camped around the Leeds box. But again, and similar to when they played against Crystal Palace, and Zaha broke through and scored the goal, it was just one of them that Liverpool just couldn't score.
Another one of my mates was a big Leeds fan, and I worked with him up at Leeds coaching. I called him Dennis Oakes as a goalkeeper. And Dennis said to me, what do I reckon to the goal? This was about a year and a half ago. I said, Dennis, listen to me. He's a goalkeeper, and that's the most important. You know what I think about. Forget midfield, forget centre forwards. Get that right first, and then you can start. I would start them with my midfield before I even thought about my back four.
Yeah.
Right? Because you've got to be able to, midfield's got to be able to liaise with the defence and the attack. And that is defending and cutting open the opposition.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I said, well, let me tell you something, Dennis. He's the best you've ever had. Because I haven't seen Leeds have a great goalkeeper. I mean, Seaman weren't that great there. He went better when he played at Arsenal.
Yeah.
He was half decent, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he said, I'm not sure. Well, let me tell you, you know, if I were Man United, I'd go buy him because he's 21, 22, 23 at most, I think he is. And he's a hell of a goalkeeper.
What's his name?
I can't pronounce it. But he's a hell of a goalkeeper. I don't watch Leeds that much. I only watch bits of them.
Yeah.
It will come into my head in a bit.
Well, we've got an hour for you to try and remember the Leeds goalkeeper. Have you got any more magic moments?
No, that was my one. You know me. I try and put the emphasis on one person, really.
Yeah.
And if I do, there's sometimes, because it's that good, you know, but we see it every week.
Absolutely.
Not many that good, but I try to put one emphasis on one play if I can. And I've never picked a player out at Cardiff of anything, but I thought that was a great goal.
Well, I've got three little magic moments here because there's been so much. It's been fantastic. Lucy Quinn's last-minute winner for Birmingham City women against Sheffield United. A fabulous pass to her. She's took the ball out of it, and I tell you what, it is an absolute worldie. It's one of the best goals I've seen score at St Andrews. So well done, kid. And a last minute winner against Sheffield United. So well done, girls. Gavin Holohan for Grimsby against Hartlepool. What a strike. The ball's just fallen to outside the box, and he's just rolled the ankle outside of his right foot and just curled it in. But just such a nonchalant, just run onto it, and he's just hit it with the outside of his foot, and it's fantastic goal. But Paul Smith's goal for Orient the weekend when
I saw that was a great goal.
He got knocked down. Who did he remind you of when he got that ball on the left side? He cut in, he attacked the players, it got brought down, it could have been a penalty. Referee waved play on, got up, ran a couple of players, stuck in the back of the net. Who did he remind you of?
I tell you, I'm not trying to compare him with him, but that goal, it's like what George Best would do.
Yeah.
Get knocked over, not complain about it. Get up. That's how I would look at him as. Who were you looking at him as?
Robbo.
I'm going to say to you. Robbo.
Reminded me the way he took the ball, the way he attacked the defender. It just reminded me of Robbo. When he went down, he got back up.
But a lot of players in our day would have got up. It's not like they are going back now and begging for a penalty. But having said that, we've got to admit that Franny Lee and Rodney Marsh were two of the worst at it.
Absolutely.
So we can't complain about the Continental.
Well, they always say that, don't they? You know, didn't dive in our day. They actually did dive back in our day in the 70s.
Millionaire.
Who's that?
A goalkeeper at Leeds. It's something like that.
Yeah, is he Spanish or French or something? He's only a young kid, but you know,
great goalkeeper, you know.
Yeah, I've looked at him and I've thought sometimes he looks a bit small. He looks like he's just come out of school.
No, he doesn't look small. He's like Jock. He needs filling out.
Yeah.
About 6'3", 6'4".
Is he really that tall? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you got a cough as well? I've got one as well.
I've just done swallowed something. It's like stuff. No, I ain't got a cough.
You okay?
Yeah, I'm fine, mate.
Yeah. So that concludes, bro. Paul Smith, his name is. He's from Belfast. He was playing for Linfield, and he got a move to Queen's Park Rangers. I think he was only there for a couple of seasons at QPR, and then he turns up at Orient. I don't know why he left QPR, because if you remember, about 6 weeks ago, I said, in my magic moment, have a look at this fella. His name's Paul Smith, or Paul Smythe. He's flicked the ball up against Doncaster, and he's kind of scissor kicked it into the top.
Why? Do you know why he left?
No,
it would have been an English coach.
Yeah, probably.
But, you know, that player at Man United, that Brazilian.
What one? Fred? Who? Oh, Anthony. Yeah, Anthony. We're going to be talking about Anthony
now,
in a short while.
He'll have done that in Holland, nothing said.
You
know, when he does it in England, everybody can't do that here. Why can't they do that here? Can you remember a kid called Ronaldo, who played for Man United as an 18-year-old? They spent 12 million quid on it.
Yep.
Right?
One-trick pony, wasn't
he? Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
Anybody else would have got rid of Ronaldo, but not Fergie.
Yep.
We've got an obsession, right, of kick and run and wear your heart on your sleeve.
Absolutely. Big and strong, keep running. Big and strong, keep running, lads.
I give up, I give up with that.
I know, it's incredible.
And I still want them to do well. I still want them to do well and be successful, me, Gabby.
Absolutely,
really do.
Yeah, of course we do.
I do, me. And yet, it's pathetic how they go on about things all the time.
Absolutely. We're in topics of the week. We're going to be talking showboating. So a little bit later in the podcast, because I had a chat with Uddy about the showboating, and then we got talking about the Mavericks, etc., etc. So we will be talking about that in a short while. Book corner in association with myfootballbooks.com. Andy from myfootballbooks.com always sends us a recommendation. And this week It's from Ronnie Radford to Roger Osborne when the FA Cup really mattered in the 1970s by Matthew Eastley. I believe he done it's one of a trilogy. So I think it's either 70s, 80s, and the 90s, or the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. Apologies, because I'm not familiar with the trio, but the one that Andy's recommended is from Ronnie Radford to Roger Osborne, and sadly Roger passed away some time ago, and Ronnie Radford passed away yesterday.
Well, it definitely 70s.
Oh no, that's the 70s, but he's wrote 3 books.
All right.
About the FA Cup, when the FA Cup really mattered, and I can't remember if it was the 60s, 70s, the 80s, or the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. I think it's 60s,
No,
70s, and 80s.
60s, 70s, 80s.
I would have thought so.
Yeah,
I would have thought so.
Started to fade with Premier League, wasn't it?
I think so, but as I say, I'm not sure. But it is one of a trilogy, and Andy recommended that when he learnt of the passing of Ronnie Radford. Goal of the season in 1972. What a goal, wasn't it? And what a giant killing feat for Hereford knocking out Newcastle United.
I can still see that. I can still see the fans come down to the field. I can still see how bad that pitch was to play on.
It was awful, wasn't it?
And I can still see in my head now the Newcastle players, all the heads down, thinking, "What has happened here?"
I know. Pat Howard, I'd done a Legends of the 70s podcast with Pat, and we were talking. I said, "Happy anniversary, Pat." He said, "Thank you very much, Gab." I said, "You don't know what it's happy anniversary about, do you?" He said, "No, not really." I said, it was at the time, it was, I don't know, 40 years since that goal when Ronnie Radford and who was the other fella, George?
Yeah, go on.
What was his name? Eddie George, was it? Was it Eddie George?
No,
Ricky George. Ricky George.
Ricky George.
Yeah, when Ricky George. I mean, he's the one that's always forgotten. He scored the winner, and Ronnie Radford, and Pat talked me through that goal. He said it flew over my head, and I thought that's going to be close. That is. And it went straight in the top corner.
Do you know
like a rocket.
Do you know the goalkeeper's name?
Ian McFall.
Yeah, Ian McFall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean they were. They were a good team. I like Newcastle back in them days. I like McDonald. I
still like Newcastle now, mate.
Yes, same here.
It's had no success, but I say I like Newcastle. Well, I do like the Newcastle, but they've got terrific fans. But like anybody else, when they're not winning, a lot of them are moaners, and I get that. But there's still fantastic support.
Absolutely. What was it? The 15th of August 1972. That was the first game that I went to see Birmingham City play with my dad, and it was against Newcastle United. And Willie or Ian McFall was the goalkeeper. Bob Latchford had 3 disallowed goals in the second half. So as a kid, I must have thought, blimey, look at all those goals going in here. This is great. I don't think Birmingham have scored so many since. And second up, Steve Perryman, a Spur forever. My lily white and blue life with Adam Powley. We've just released our podcast, Legends of the 70s, with Steve Perryman. What an absolute legend. What a top man. And Steve is in our Star of the 70s section again a little bit later in the podcast. So we'll talk about Steve a little bit later. And thirdly, A Marriage Made in Football. The story of Graham and Jane Hawkins by Kirsty Hawkins. Kirsty's kindly sent me the book that she's written.
Is that the manager at Wolves?
Yeah, it is, yeah. Have you any memories? Did he?
He tried to sign me when I was Sheffield United.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah. Did you have any dealings?
Before the Everton thing. Before the Everton thing came about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did you consider, how did that come about to you? Was it made common knowledge to you?
I'd been there long, but I told you, Reg really bought me. And,
yeah.
It was always an headache for Porterfield. And even though we played, Wednesday together, and we got along, as a manager, he wants his own players, and he got Colin Morris there. He got Tony Tower, Tony Towers.
Yeah.
And he got another one, a winger. Colin Morris.
Okay.
Colin Morris, Tony Towers. He got another one. Anyway, it'll come to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I met him in manager's office at Bramble Lane.
Yeah.
And he introduced me to him. He said, "I made an offer for you. Would you fancy it?" I haven't been there 2 minutes. But we were playing that night. And I just said, have a game to think about first. And that was it. And then he pulled me in after the game. He said, "Being serious, I made an offer for you." I said, "Well, sell me, Paul. It don't make a difference to me.
Yeah.
Just sell me. I'm not interested in one little bit what you do."
Mm.
And that's them's the words that I use. Right? I think Reg put a block on it. And then we had a couple of, he left me out to a couple of games, I think. And usually I would have gone into office and said, "If you're not playing me, sell me."
Yeah.
And he just left it. And then he said to me, "Everton's coming for you." And I said, "Well, get me out of here as quick as you can."
Mm.
And that's how it came about. But when you said Graham Hawkins, blonde-haired guy.
Yeah. So you never met him, but you just...
Still alive?
No, sadly he passed away. But it is the story of Graham and Jane Hawkins, a marriage made in football by their daughter-in-law, Kirsty Hawkins. So it looks as though it's going to be a fabulous read. And she's kindly sent me the book, so I'm going to have a read of it, and I'm going to make a podcast with Kirsty about Graham Hawkins, and a wonderful book there. Wolverhampton Wanderers player and manager. Graham spent his life working in football, signed by Stan Cullis at Wolverhampton Wanderers age 16. He played, scouted and managed for his boyhood club. A life in football rarely allows loyalty to one team. He went to play for Preston North End, Blackburn Rovers and Port Vale. But ever-present Colossus. Preston North End's captain. He was captain of Preston North End. So, yeah, must have been a decent player. I don't really remember him. Probably a little bit really before my time, TC. But looking forward to reading that book.
I can't remember him playing, but I remember him being manager.
Yeah.
And I met him a couple of times, like I said.
I think he was there 2 seasons. I believe he took Wolves up. But,
he weren't there long. And that Sammy Chung, was it? Sammy Chung, but another one weren't there.
Yeah, Sammy would have been before, because when Bill McGarry got sacked.
Yeah,
Sammy. But he
weren't there that long, was it?
No, absolutely. Kenny Ibbett was telling me about Sammy Chung, because he was a coach, and they all love Sammy. Bill McGarry was hard work to say the least. He was hard work. He never really talked to anybody, but Sammy Chung did, and the players really liked him. But Book Corner, in association with myfootballbooks.com, we always mention 3 books in our feature there. Steve Perryman, A Spur Forever, my lily white and blue life with Adam Powley. A Marriage Made in Football, the story of Graham and Jane Hawkins by Kirsty Hawkins, and From Ronnie Radford to Roger Osborne, When the FA Cup Really Mattered, 1970s by Matthew Easley. Those are our 3 books this week, TC. So guys, go on to myfootballbooks.com. Have a look. Andy promotes so many fabulous books. Books are out now, books that have been out in the past. And when a player has a birthday or sadly passed away, and the date marks that date, he'll put the book, his autobiography. I'm doing another podcast next week with Gary Edwards. I've just got this book today, Summer of '63, Revy's Plan for Leeds United. So I'm looking forward to having a dip into that book as well. And I've just, our most recent Book Corner Extra Time podcast has come out today. Chris has been really working hard today. It's Alchemy by Christopher Hull. Christopher sent me the book with Brian Clough's time, Brian Clough and Peter Taylor, their time at Hartlepool's United. So they sent me the book, I read it, and then we make a podcast with them. So all from wherever you source your podcast, guys, just go and have a look at it, SRBMedia. And there's another couple of podcasts out this week. Strange but true. 19th of October 1946, Barnet versus Tooten and Mitcham was the first match televised by the BBC.
SRBMedia.